So it's been a shitty week, just in general. My job sucked this week. Working, uh, doing casing, pushing or putting steel in the ground, pulling it back out, and most of it's done by hand. Obviously, you know, we don't have all the equipment it takes to like automatic wrenches and everything like that. We do a lot of that by hand. Literally twist it on, and the crane picks it up, and then we pull the slips and put it down. Anyway, I worked really hard this week. I'm sore, like most of my muscles are sore. It was really hot out. It took it out of me. The other crappy part of this whole week is I had a friend. He's young. He's like 26. He was riding his four-wheeler and fell into a washout, and it was like a 5-foot hole, and he broke his helmet and everything. He hit so hard on the other side, and it was dirt. It was a dirt hill, but he broke his upper jaw, his lower jaw, and his neck and his back and his ribs, and his face, I guess his orbital lobe. It was crazy. He almost died. He had lacerations and stuff. And then like the next day, a separate incident, my friends, one of them I was real close with, but they were both guys I worked with at Nucor. And one's Steven and one's Jacob. I was close with Jacob, not super close like best friends, but we were close. We talked a lot, man. We just talked about a bunch of stuff, from politics to religion, just in general, a bunch of different things. And Stephen and Jacob died on Sunday at I'm not really sure, sometime in the morning, I believe. I don't have all the details yet. And anyway, they were coming back or they were going to a lake. I'm not even sure about that yet. I've just been shocked that he got killed, that both of them got killed. I just worked with Jacob on Friday, and he had to go to the hospital because of me. Friday, instead of dope in the pipe, we put oil on it, and it flicked into his eyeball, and he had to go to the hospital because his eye started hurting real bad. I guess that was Thursday, and then Friday he came back, and he was doing good. And then he died in a wreck. They were speeding, I guess, pretty fast. They lost control of the car. I guess it was a small SUV, and it just rolled a bunch of times, like insane amount of times. I guess it killed Steven right away, like instantly, and Jacob went through the windshield and out on the ground, and he lived, like they had to revive him, and he lived an hour, and then he died again. That's what I was told anyway. I don't know all the details, like I said, but he was supposed to do a podcast with me, with his spiritual beliefs and stuff like that, and he told me a little bit about it, and I didn't get a chance to do it. I just figured I'd wait a couple weeks and just get it right in my head, before I say it on a podcast. And if I make a lot of money off the podcast and I get a lot of views from his, I'm gonna take all that money and give it to his kid. He's got a little boy. I think he's 3. Him and his dad. His dad takes care of his kid, so I'll be giving the dad the money if it kicked off right away, So, yeah, Jacob's, he was young. He was 26 as well. And Steven was 28. So, man, that's super young, man. I know people die every day. I think someone dies every 12 seconds. Something like that. It's a lot. But, yeah, I came in and into my job for the safety meeting every Monday. You have to go in, and another friend of mine told me about it, and man, it devastated me. It just shocked me. I wasn't expecting it. Those two dying like that. It was. I always think about anybody can die at any time. I always keep that in my mind, but it still shocked me. I ended up. I saw both of them. I saw both of their ghosts in a vehicle, a company vehicle, out on the pipeline, multiple times in 2 days. And then I started thinking maybe I need to take a picture of it, because after I get a flash of a look at them, and then they were gone. So I just took a picture of them anyway, took a picture of it, of the truck. And I saw three people, 3 shadows inside the truck. There was nobody in the truck, but I saw 3 people in there. And it's amazing. Jacob told me, he said that he'd come visit me if he died. He said, yeah, I'll definitely come visit you. And I said the same thing. I said, yeah, I'll come and visit you. So, just sorry you had to do it on a come to work and shit to do it. You got to go to work even after you die, man. That's messed up. But I definitely miss those guys, man. Steven was a smart ass, kind of like a hardcore guy. He was, his hard hat said, fucking fighting and tripping pipe. And he had his teeth busted out from fights and all kinds of stuff. He just, he was the typical roughneck, just lean, hard kind of guy, just tough-natured guy. He could handle a lot of pain. I remember we were pulling on a pipe, and we were trying to break it loose, and we used a pipe wrench, a 24-inch, and we had a cheater bar on it, and we were slamming it, trying to break it loose. Boom, boom, boom. And there was 4 of us, I believe, on it, and then someone on a backup pipe wrench. And so, anyway, the pipe wrench broke, snapped it in half, and I caught myself because I had done this stuff before. as a mechanic, I had to break loose a lot of stuff, so I already knew better, than you have to have a certain stance and get ready to catch yourself. Well, Steven was trying to break it loose, trying to get it there he wanted to get it, all this stuff taken care of. He was like, let's get the job done kind of guy. And he was slamming into it like full force. And when it broke loose, it snapped that pipe wrench, like I said, in half, which is like, it's that thick, and then like that on the sides. And so it broke in half. He went flying across, hit his ribs on the equipment, and then hit the ground. And it hurt him pretty good. I mean, it was a hell of a fall for him. Anybody, and he just sat there on the thing, and he was happy he did it. That he got it loose, because we couldn't get it loose. I did everything I could just by myself, because I'm a pretty strong dude, and I pulled everything I had, and I couldn't break it loose. So we got a bunch of us, and we got it loose, and he was proud of that. He was like really proud. And then when he saw the wrench was snapped in half, he thought that was pretty cool. And but he was like that, he was learning to be a driller. He used to do some other job. He came here, and his dad, Dave, was and his brother Dan were here, and we worked with all of them, and they're all good people. So but they were teaching him how to be a driller. I think Dan was in training as well, or he might be one. I'm not really entirely sure. And Dave's a boss, so I know Steve, he wanted to be just like his dad. I mean, he was he wanted to be, have that experience and be really good at the job, and he had all this stuff that he worked really hard to impress his dad. That was his thing, so he did, man. He impressed his dad a lot. But Steve did a good job in his job at the job. Worked really hard. He was smart. He knew his shit. And then Jacob was his best friend. And Jacob was cool, man. I liked him a lot. He was a conservative, a weed smoking conservative. He's funny, he is a smart ass too. He's a really hard worker too, just like Steve. And he was fast. He was really quick on the job. He was a really thin, wiry guy, and he was the guys teased him and called him lady arms, because he is like 5'2", I think 5'3", and like I said, he was a skinny built guy. When he first got there, he was weak. He couldn't do hardly anything, he hadn't done a physical labor job before, I'm sure. And anyway, the girl that had worked here was a little bit taller than him, and she's a thin built girl, and they were teasing because she was stronger than him, at the time. And so the boss like, I'm sure she's got bigger arms than you, and he goes, no, there's no way, man. My arms are bigger than hers. And they measured, and hers were slightly bigger, and so they called him lady arms. And it didn't really bother him, he just kind of laughed it off, like You know, it was no big deal. Like, he was comfortable with himself. You know, I mean, obviously, the little part of you gets a little bit bothered, but because he said, he's like, "Can I come train with you?" You know, I said, "Yeah, man, of course," because I work out all the time over here. So he wanted to gain like up to 25 more pounds, you know, and I said, "Yeah, that's a good weight, man." So he never did come over and train. I was gonna give him some weights, but he ended up uh, he bounced a couple of different homes, going to different couple of different places to live, and he didn't have a set place for me to give him the weights. So he said he was getting it all situated, and then he'd let me know. And but just working here on this job made him muscular. You know, he was fitter. You know, he had gotten like bigger shoulders and arms and everything just from picking up pipe and shoveling, and you know, there's basically everything that you do at this job is turns you into a, you know, a lean, mean beast. So yeah, he told me, we were talking about how his mom died 2 years ago. And I told him my mom had died 13 years ago, and we just compared stories. And he had said he'd seen her ghost. He had had dreams, you know, of her coming to him. Just he said that he was really, really down, and he wasn't prepared for her death. And I said, no one's prepared for anyone's death, man. You could know someone's dying of cancer, and when that happens, you're not ready. I mean, you think you are, but then when it comes, you're not. There's always these things that you forgot to talk to him about, and then if you've talked to him for a long period of time, you know, you still feel like, you know, you wish you could say more. Shit, for years I told him, I said, I used to drive to my mom's house, man, for 10 years after she died to go talk to her, because I'd gone there so much in my life. My dad sold the place and took off out of town, and that upset me very much too, you know. Just, he got remarried right away, and so we talked. We had a lot of personal things that we told each other about, and with death, and you know, he was cool, man. He was a really good guy. He was like one of those guys that you very rarely run into, that you know you can talk to. Like, you can have a real conversation with him. You can explain details about your life, and you know they're not going to use it against you. You know, he was that kind of a guy. You know, he was always, you know, we started talking about ghosts one time, and he was cool. You know, I told him I wanted to start a podcast doing it, you know, talking about spiritual stuff. And then I talked to him on and off through the months when we were on layoff, during our layoff time, plus the COVID made it another month longer. And so we talked during that time. I wrote a book on spiritual stuff, you know, and so it's called Spiritual. Ouch, what the hell was that? A second, something's poking. Okay, it's a sliver. Anyway, I told him I wrote this book, Spiritual Events, and he thought it was cool. We talked about different stories in it and everything, and then he had his own stories he told me about, and it was so weird, man. For 3 weeks, like 3 weeks ago, we talked, and I said, I said, me and my mom had said that we would come visit each other if one of us died. And he said, if you die, or if I die, I'll come see you, man. I'll come see you. And then I kept seeing him in the truck the other day, and I took a picture of him, and I got those 3 people in there, and I was like, fucking awesome, man. Like, that stuff's just so cool to me. I'm just so thankful that there's an existence beyond this, like when you go up on a body and you see the body is lifeless, and there's that energy that animates them is no longer there. There's a depression there. There's a sadness that you can't seem to, shake. There's this cold fear, I guess, when you're looking at someone that you love, or even not, you get that feeling, and so yeah. So he was cool, man. He was cool. We talked about a bunch of different things, and it's so weird, man. Check this out. .316 always appears whenever I'm talking about spirituality or I'm thinking about it. 316 miles left. I think that stuff's kind of cool. That's in the Bible, by the way, the 316, John 316. But anyway, back to the story. The main story I almost forgot was, as far as the book went, and about that, like, I told him what I had done, and I said, I want to get this podcast going about that stuff, and maybe even become a ghost hunter, start my own podcast, TV show, something, just do a bunch of videos and then try to get them sold. And he's like, man, that'd be so awesome. I'd love to do something like that. And I said, well, and then I came back one day and I said, hey, man, I just started my podcast like 3 days ago. And he's like, oh, really cool. So we were planning on doing doing one of these podcast videos, an audio or something. And so we're getting ready to do it. And he died. And so I decided I'm going to tell his story. And like I said, if it makes a bunch of money, I don't know if anything I do is ever going to make any money, but I'm going, I give it a shot. I always try. But I think it'd be kind of cool to roll up and give the dad and the son, a check. And he loved his dad very much too. Jacob did, just like Stephen. And Jacob loved his kid so much too. He even talked about his adopted, or his stepkids, adopted kids, whatever. He talked about how they called him dad and stuff like that, and that stuff's cool. So I just had to kind of tell that story about this crappy week. It's terrible, losing people. But the only thing good that came of this week is, well, a couple things, I guess. No, there's more than that. But my wife and me got to talking a lot, and my nephew, my sister, and me, and we talked about this kind of stuff, and it makes you closer, when you get to, when you talk about things like that, you know, the possibility of you not coming home at night or them not coming home. So when you finally get to talk about it, it's very real. Kind of makes you, you know, take the time when you don't want to take the time to talk about life and everything like that. The other good things is the week's over with, thank God. They're actually not. We don't have any fly ash for the rest of the week, so we're not doing any Friday, but we're coming back Monday. I looked at that as a good thing, I guess. Even though I only got 40 hours, I'm going to work on my stories and try to get my book done as fast as possible. I've been pissing around writing stories and not putting them together, you know what I mean? Like, they're really, like, I have a bunch of stories written already, so that's a compilation of stories. I don't want to tell the title yet, but I might have already told it earlier, but anyway, that was another thing Jacob was gonna, I was gonna let him read the story about a near-death experience, you know, and never did, man. Never got to let him read that one. But anyway, the other really good thing is I got to see his ghost. You know, that's every time I lose faith or I get afraid, I see a cool code 316. You know, like a code from the Bible. There's other numbers too that pop up, and you know they're astral signs or whatever. You know, codes and universe. You know, the universe tries to speak with you. You know, if God doesn't. And on top of it, I don't know, when you when you see a ghost, it brings you to a reality, even though most of the time people don't look at ghosts as being real. Like a lot of people, it was funny. I just let this guy. I asked these two of my buddies. The one said, because he works here, and he said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Not really." And we got to talking a little bit, and I said, "I gotta ask you guys, do you believe in ghosts?" And one guy said no. He shook his head no, but he's a religious guy, I'm sure. I think it's just in their head. They don't want to talk about it because it represents something not, you know, it's more supernatural. They don't want to talk about it. So, but the one guy said, yeah. It took me a minute to find the picture. I showed him, I said, this is the truck from a distance. And they were looking at it. No big deal. Well, then I kept pulling it up on the screen until it got big enough. For some reason, this truck picture, it got bigger than normal. Like I could actually like pull, like make it way big. It was like literally like, I don't know, maybe that big, and the windshield was that big when I was done on the phone, and it was awesome. And he was like, "Holy crap, there's people in there." And I said, "There was nobody in that truck, just so you know." And then the other guy that didn't believe in it was like, "Whoa, man, that's creepy." But whether he believed it or he didn't believe it in actual ghosts, once he saw that, it changed his mind. You know, he really, because there's no way to fake those kind of pictures. You know, it's like that shit's real. You know, that like we don't die, and I think that's amazing. Thank God for that. You know, like I'm so thankful there's a God. I can't imagine this just being it. I wouldn't like it at all. It'd be fucking depressing. Anyway, don't lose faith in any. If you lose people, don't lose faith. You'll see them again. Take care.